Yes. Next week we have Scotty J on here. I think it's actually sooner than next week. I think it's actually in like 6 days. We have Scotty J on here, and we will be covering everything else that's not PvE related. So he is Giga Brain. He's played a lot of classes. We're gonna go over professions and everything else that we can go with Scotty J. And then the third week we're gonna have a full PvP episode with earplugs and a couple other of the Lich King like gigas. I don't want to just get somebody on here who halfway knows his shit. Just like Lark said, I like that he's PvE Andy'd out, so he can talk about PvE for you guys. I like that Scotty covers everything else. I like that he'll be here covering for you guys. And I like that earplugs is just a Giga Brain Lich King, so there's no whatever the fucking confusions or whatever. Obviously, when it comes to tier lists, you will see very different responses. Okay, there's gonna be people in here who might not agree with Rugs. That's okay. Rugs is not the be all say all. He'll say that. This is just coming from his years of experience at rating at the top level. On top of, let's see, a lot of, I said it earlier, but you guys weren't here, so I'll say it again. A lot of the other tier lists on Google, on YouTube are based on ICC for some reason. Like, it's like the main thing everybody, why do they do that, Rugs? I don't know. It just feels like everybody instantly just does ICC shit. Yeah. We still have everything in the world before then. So, and like I said earlier, Rugs is a top tier, rank 5 world feral beef DPS and TBC Classic. So his brain is already working, tailoring towards Classic community, which is what we want. We don't like private server is cool, but we already know how different the worlds are. We don't know, and this is a Classic player. Like, you don't meet a lot of friendly people on the private servers, and we know that, right? So we just said that earlier, but now that Sarth and his crew are in here, you want to do a brief introduction? I missed you. Sarth, go ahead. Sorry.
I think that's like, before you introduce yourself, sorry about that, Rugs, but I think that's one things I'm the most excited for about Wrath in general is we're coming in with players that have really extensive knowledge of Classic and how Classic works, and are going to be able to translate the Wrath knowledge into that, instead of, in particular, I would say with TBC, a lot of the TBC players or content creators, not even like Crix, but like even just like anyone talking about TBC wouldn't have had the same experience in Classic, or wasn't min-maxing in Classic also, so that they could see how things are going to translate, because it's going to be a different mindset, people are going to come in with a different mindset, and you're going to be focused more on overall damage a lot of the times, or looking at like single target boss parsing. So like that's like two things that are huge. And early on in TBC, people were always worried about like warriors not being great, but then I mean, look at us now, or look at Glaive Warriors, of course.
Yeah, and I was the #1 guy who was like, remember, I don't know if you remember the clip I had where I was like, yeah, you were zug, and
I'm fucking Fury.
Bro, just to touch on Fury, I love it even more, bro. Like, and in looking ahead at Sunwell, dude, I'm trying to keep it Lich King related, but I can't right now. Looking ahead to Sunwell, dude, that's Cleve City, bro. I cannot fucking wait for Sunwell on my Fury Warrior. It's crazy. I can't wait. I literally can't wait. I need to show one more.
I'll be right back. I'm gonna turn AC on in my house.
Yeah, you're dripping right now, bro. You are dripping right now, bro. God damn.
No, I really like what Sarth was saying. I think the whole mindset and the approach of Wrath Classic is going to be really challenging and formative for people who are maybe in my shoes, who are like private server Andys or Wrath Andys, who think that we know everything. We need to like genuinely be prepared for the unexpected. And I think everyone who's played TBC private service before Classic TBC came out, I think it kind of rocked their worlds a little bit too. Like, we know that some of these tier lists were wrong, and some of the information that we had was like straight up wrong. We need to be like prepared to, or at least like mentally prepared to be wrong on some of these things.
I gotta go to the store and get fucking monsters. There's no way.
Are going at it with not only like our best guess and our best prediction of what's gonna be, but also the flexibility of knowing, like, after we beat the hell out of this expansion and try to push overall and push boss damage like crazy, which is something that we're just not doing on private servers. We're like just split clearing and YOLOing. It's going to be really cool to see what happens.
Yeah, I think you just said it. I was a TBC private server person into Lich King, and that's why I'm so excited for these, because I feel like we know I'm not a humble person, but I feel like I know exactly what to form all of these around now, because I fucked up. I did that. I did the tier list, and I did all this shit for TBC private servers, and I was wrong about a lot of things too, just like everybody was. Now we know, you know what I mean? And you know, and this is why it's so big, you know? And so I'm very excited. Sarth, I need to show you, I need to show one more TBC thing before we go. Bro.
All right.
You guys know that I re-rolled to the homie Fusion. So did Rugs. Shout out. Rugs and I both joined Fusion for Lich King. And Sunwell for you caught up, I think. Yeah. So I am on my first week at 70. So I have not even 2 days played on this Alliance Warlock before I show you this, okay? And
Okay, let's see.
yeah. How do you see it without anything?
No way, dude.
I don't know how to see it without.
Positive.
monsters. Okay. We're back.
Blocking everything. Yeah.
It's so bullshit,
Yeah.
dude. He's got 4
Heck,
piece
fucking
already.
hedge.
Yeah. That's crazy. Oh, I fucked up.
How?
I just got so I've done 2 Karazhans, 2 ZAs, 1 SSC, and 1 T6, or 1 T5, 1 T6, and it just I got lucky, bro. Literally got lucky. Well, I paid 5K each for each token.
Okay.
Zardoom dropped, and I fucked because the whole guild Fusion was like, "Yo, you should have got Zardoom because you're gonna get free tier and raid." But I was like, I'm one of those guys who likes to show up to raid. Like, oh, I don't want to show up to raid not pumping. I want to my first raid with Fusion and demolish everything on the overall. I don't want to do like, you know what I mean? Oh yeah, guys, I got a weapon. Can you fucking feed me gear? I want to actually like, you know what I mean? Yeah, I'm very excited for that. I'll stop bragging. It was a good night, bro. It was a good. I'm having. It's crazy because I re-rolled and it revitalized the whole game for me, dude. It's like, it's just so much fun, bro. I'm excited to play with the boys. I just had to say
Dude,
that.
it's all the
Stacked.
dopamine kicks of all these gear upgrades that you get.
Yeah, he didn't buy yeah, I was too bored by those, bro. Yeah, it was rough. I wish I had 30K. Zardoom was 35K, and I still needed, and I needed everything else. I was like, yeah. So I went and got 4-piece, a cloak, and like a belt or something. So call today. I like that. Slurp.
Slurping it up, dude. I love it.
So Rugsies, hit your intro for the new boys, and then we'll hit.
Yeah, so anyone who's tuning in just a little bit late, my name is Rug. I've been playing on Wrath private servers for I think over 3 years now. I've played a lot, all the way through the entire expansion. Started off as a noob, progressively got better and better. A lot of these servers have been customly buffed, and I've been a part of Realm First racing teams. I have a stupid amount of Realm Seconds throughout all these years, and multiple Realm Firsts, predominantly in Old War. And my experience is mostly with melee. I've done some tanking and some healing with some Realm First groups, and I'm super excited to be here, man. I'm pumped. Talking about Wrath,
Excited
baby.
to have you, man. Excited to have you. I'm so pumped for this next expansion, and like your wealth of knowledge about this expansion, again coming from someone who's also in the like one of the top parsers in the world in actual classic PvC, is gonna translate so well. And your wealth of knowledge about Death Knight is about to be like, you're gonna be the DK guy. So how am I gonna learn to play DK? I'm about to watch Rugs.
No, dude, I'm so pumped about it. It's really exciting because it's kind of a dream, man. I want to be that DK reference and pool of knowledge for you guys. Fun.
Rank 5, just for those that are wondering who the fuck this guy is. He knows this.
Are these guys
I
done
just never
massaging
forget,
each
so
other's
he just let me
dicks?
how many it doesn't matter.
And they're gonna talk
That
about the
long
actual
person,
tier
he's fine.
list or what?
I don't care if there's only 100 feral druids. He's fine.
We get it. This guy's been a virgin for a while.
I made a big mistake.
You know what I mean? You're pumping,
You're just
though, right?
holding on till TBC. That's what it was. You were like, I'll be feral for then. I'll be back.
It was such a bad decision deciding, oh, I'm gonna go play Feral, thinking that it's gonna be good and useful, and falling in love with the class. Unfortunately, just happens to be a super off meta pick. I should have played Fury from the beginning.
There you go. Hey, I feel the same goddamn way now that I play Fury. Are you playing it now? I saw you playing it now, right?
Yeah, dude, I got a Fury alt. Oh
Bananas.
my god, it's so clean, dude.
Bananas, dude.
It's so clean.
Dude, bananas. Okay, one more thing before we start. What are you gonna play and main for Liching? What's your main and what's your main alt? Rug, Sarth, go.
All right, I'll go first. Obviously, I'm maining DK, and my main alt has got to be my Feral from TBC, bringing him up. That's my plan. DK Feral.
DK tank?
Oh, no. DK DPS. Most likely Unholy. Frost kind of gives me Carpal Tunnel, but we'll see. Whatever my guild needs, I'll play Frost or Unholy.
Okay.
All right.
Sarthis?
I am going back to my roots. Baby boy Sarth's back on yellow. Let's go. Rogues for days. And my alt is the same alt. Like my two mains on like that have been my two mains for all of like World of Warcraft history for the most part are both yellow and pink, baby. So my Ret Paladin / Prop Paladin coming in hot. Give me that dual spec. And my rogue life where we can tricks of the trade, Phantom Knives. We can finally actually do damage. Oh my god. I mean, right now, yellow, like rogues are pumping super hard on bosses and actually pretty damn decent on overall. Especially in like some of these guilds like Rain, Maltese is just giga blasting right now. But like I just can't wait to be back on my favorite class. It's really exciting. Some of these damage, like he did like 3.6k damage in a single target on Archimon. I was like, that's blast, dude. I will still have a hunter. I don't know how. I mean, we'll see. But like my main is gonna be yellow.
Yeah. I was looking at this the other day at the top single target. I did not know that Rogue was that high. I literally said this on stream like yesterday. I was like, what the fuck? I did not know Rogue was that high. Rogue is like, do you think this is, I don't know, all glaives? It can't be all things, right? It's got to be with, the further you go down, the more Warlock goes up, because it's fucking easy to play, but literally, the further you go down, the more Warlock goes up, just because it's so fucking easy to play a Warlock. It's easy to do good as a Warlock, right? Versus, you see the Furies and the Hunters, where you see the Fury way down here, but as you start getting better and min-maxing, those classes become better and better, because these are people pressing buttons at the right time, you know?
I mean, no one's ever going to catch Beast Mastery, especially now that there's a melee we've script. Like,
oh yeah, you're right. Yeah.
The top BMs right now are doing like 4.6k DPS on single target without pressing their buttons, you know. But like it is unreal. So no one's gonna touch us, I think, in Classic or in TBC. But yeah, some rogues right now are just absolutely blasting. And I mean, the issue with the entire class, the entire issue, I've said this so many times, is their cleave is on a 2-minute CD for rogues, Blade Flurry. Like, you can't do anything. But during like whenever that's up, no one's touching you. You're doing like 6k DPS with all CDs. If you're getting perfect uptime, it's unreal, right?
You gotta forget that 2 minutes is 2 minutes, but it kind of goes by kind of fast, you know. If you just, that's like, you use it on one pack, next thing you know, that pack's like a minute long or whatever, and then, you know, it's like a good little, you know. Yeah,
especially if you pull a little bit slow, if you're not in like one of these speedrun guilds that's chain pulling every pack, you almost have it up every other pack, which would be insane. But rogues have always suffered from that. As you go faster, rogues fall down, and that was kind of an issue in Classic even. Rogues should have never beaten warriors, but a lot of the times I would always be #1 DPS in my raids, and when I was pulling off #1 rogue in the world for overall damage, it was because my raid was like an hour and 4 minutes instead of like, say, some of these raids that were doing like 49 minutes to like 50-minute runs or whatever. Like, you were not gonna get #1 overall with that, because just for the fact of I had more Blade Flurry uptime and more cleave uptime, which isn't an issue we have in Wrath now that we have Phantom Knives, and I'm so stoked for that.
Yeah, and which we're going to touch on. The big focus of this is the DPS, is the tier listing, bro. And Ruggs has already done one. I imagine that he's probably going to change some of them because, you know, he learned some shit. Everybody learned some shit. So that's why I didn't want to bring up that old one and just watch that video. I wanted to get a good revamp on it. All three of us will post this to our channels, of course. After this one's done, I'll unrecord it. I'm ending my stream up an hour later. I'm going to cut everything down, get the volumes right, timestamp it, send it to everybody. And then we're good to go on that. We already know I'm playing a Warlock. There's no surprise. I'm playing a Warlock, and then my main ult is probably going to be a Resto Druid, Resto Boomy Druid. I am an absolute... So when we get to the tier listing, Ruggs is going to be talking most of the time. I have been playing servers, but Ruggs has taught me literally 85% of everything I've known over the past, like, however long, 6 months, year. And then I'm just going to chime in on the couple classes I played. Other than that, it's going to be straight Ruggs. Obviously, Starth can chime in on whatever he wants to as well. This is going to be a lot of Ruggs talking, and he knows that. So, yeah. Is there anything else we want to touch on before we begin with the tank one?
Okay. Good, brother.
Now, I'm going to open this up so we can get... Yeah, so I'm going to move this so we can see. I'm going to move make our pictures smaller while you discuss this, and then I'll move them down there. So just go ahead and... Did you want to go in a certain order, or can we just bang this out?
Any order's fine. I don't care at all.
Okay. Well, guys, you already know S, A, B, C, D, right? We don't really need to name them. You can D garbage. You can do whatever. We don't need to name them. We know the ranking order. Sarth, what'd you say, my friend?
Sorry if I missed this earlier, guys. But are we gonna do these tier lists phase by phase?
Right now, I think we want to go. He's gonna go. We'll talk about overall in general, and I guess Ruggs just kind of chime in where they get some strengths on. When you get closer, you can do more of like just tier 7 stuff. Like right now,
sure.
I mean, this is just to get a kind of. Maybe there's some people not sure what they want to play, and they kind of want to know a general idea how they kind of look at it and stuff like that, and then it kind of gives them that point, right? Because a lot of things change, and Ruggs is very fucking good at putting it in terms of the classic eyes and the classic speedrun meta. He's speedrunning. He knows all that stuff too. So it's this is gonna be a good one. I'm so excited for this one. Making our pictures smaller. Then we'll move Ruggs down here with us, bro, and then we're gonna fucking let him rip. How's that, guys?
Sounds good.
All right. Okay, so
Let me talk about tanks real quick, just in general.
Go ahead. Hit
Because
it,
tanks in Wrath, I feel like, deserve a moment of clarification because tanking in TBC is a beast of its own. And threat is so important in TBC that people think, oh, once we get to Wrath, like we'll never have to worry about threat again. Let me just address that real quick because I hear that 1,000 times. Threat doesn't go away in Wrath. It's a lot easier. Of course it's a lot easier. It's infinitely easier than it is in TBC. But does that mean you never rip threat again off a tank and you don't die to that? Absolutely not, dude. That shit blows my mind and triggers me beyond belief. Like, Salvation switches from a buff that is put on every raid member to a cooldown that you apply to one person with a cooldown, and every paladin gets that. And it doesn't take off your paladin buff either. It's a hand of salvation. Threat still matters. So before we say anything about this tier list, threat will make a difference, of course. You are going to see people rip threat and die. I'm telling you right now, it's going to happen. I'm tired of seeing people saying like, oh, threat's not a thing. It is. Okay, rant's over.
I actually hear that a lot. Someone just came in and said in my chat and was like, yo, it's nice not to worry about threat. And I was like, well, as a warlock, I am always worried about threat. What? Even more? I almost feel like I'm worried about threat more, especially as a demo lock, bro. Like, what? I don't know where that came from.
All right, so should we start with Paladin?
Yep. Paladin, what do you think, my friend?
Paladin, dude. There's so much to say about Paladin and Rat. They are by far the most S tier tank I've ever seen in my entire WoW career of any expansion. Paladin in Wrath of Lich King is absolutely fucking Goku Super Saiyan 3 at like everything. They get so many good cooldowns between their good Divine Shield or Divine Protection. They have their raid stacks. They have their bubbles. They have their Blessing of Protection. They have their Hand of Sacrifice, which is a cooldown they can use on their off tanks while their off tank is taking damage. They have really good threat. And get this, they have awesome damage. The Prot Paladin DPS is really good, especially in Nax because of Holy Wrath. And you can even glyph into Holy Wrath, which reduces the cooldown of it. They do absolutely absurd overall damage in Wrath. Prot Pally, you're either going to want to run like literally one solo tank for like all of Nax speedrunning or two Prot Paladins. You won't take any other tank. They are just that infinitely better than every tank in the game. One of their most like OP things that they have at their disposal is their talent called Ardent Defender. And it is this modern tech that is brought upon early into Wrath. That's this cheat death. If they drop below a certain percent, or if they're gonna get killed, they instead like are stuck at 20% HP or whatever it is. I'm not gonna read the tooltip because I'm not a tooltip Andy, but Ardent Defender is absolutely insane. It's broken, and it's one of the main reasons why Prot Paladin is just so desirable for progression runs and for speed running, because that little mistake, that cheat death, which only has a 2-minute cooldown, by the way, is like always available. They are absolutely insane by every definition.
Okay. And also, chat, if you guys have any questions about something, you can throw it in here. We'll touch on it too.
How does I'm gonna be the chat's version of the Andy that hasn't played Wrath in a long time, as I'm diving super deep into it now.
Yeah, it's good.
How does Prot scaling work? I know Prot is like the Giga Chad tank of this entire expansion. Then you look at like ICC, there's also a lot of like kind of like undead cross thing for like, you know, so they also can use a lot of utility there. So if we're looking towards speedrunning, of course, Prot Paladin has the same threat. But then what about single target? How does it stack up against any of the other tanks, and especially later phases as well?
So for single target duties, they definitely aren't the #1 best in terms of maybe threat or active cooldowns that they can use. And in terms of scaling, they actually don't scale as well as like a Bear might or a Death Knight might. I mean, those two classes just are all about effective HP pool, and the further and further that you get into the expansion, these beefy boys just get to absurd levels. Prot Paladin isn't ever going to fall. It's just that these other two tanks get better and better, and they catch up to the level of Prot Paladin. So if that helps explain that.
Yeah, perfect.
Just a side note, when you're talking, because I'll tell you a little bit. This is more about exciting deck building. I'm gonna put. If someone asks a question instead of me interrupting, I'm gonna put it in our group chat and I'll tag you so you see it. Okay, and then whenever you feel like it's a good time to answer that, you can just hit it.
Okay, yeah, sounds good.
Carry on. Sorry.
Yeah, that's a really good question, actually, Slams. So Slams was asking, what's the best tank for leveling groups?
Yo, this is actually a really good question. So for leveling groups, specifically thinking like dungeon spamming, obviously Prop Paladin's going to be phenomenal in that case. The one thing that's weird about Prop Paladins is they don't get Divine Flee until level 71, I think. So they might have some mana issues for like one level, but then that's it. They will have perfectly fine mana issues as long as they like spam pulling. And what's sneaky really good for leveling is Prot Warriors. They do a ton of good damage on, 4 to 5 target mobs. They are like the poster boy of a good dungeon tank, which is crazy because in any other scenario, I am like the biggest Prot Warrior hater, but for dungeon leveling, they're actually great. They're like an A or S tier tank. Bears and DKs, like bears are pretty decent. They're perfectly fine and capable. And I feel like DKs, because they won't have like a lot of stun gear, they won't have a lot of gear with strength on it. They are just generally kind of squishy and the more like scaled. They want to scale late, so they're kind of worse early. DKs are actually kind of for leveling. I don't love them or recommend them at all for your leveling, your tank leveling group. I would avoid DKs in that sense.
DKs kind of always stood out to me as like so giga strong single target. They're just like, they have so much heal, and like obviously like death and decay for a lot of like big AoE, but like they're just like I guess we're gonna get onto DKs, but like when I remember it was like DK for like maintaining bosses and misses oftentimes.
Yes, and that's definitely the case. Let's just jump right into DK next. Since you bring it up, I would put DK in the A tier for tanks, and exactly like what Sarth said, they are the best like main target boss tank. There's a few reasons for it. Mostly it's because they're late scaling. In tier 9, tier 10, that's when you really want them to do those duties. In tier 7 and tier 8, you still want to have your Prop Paladin main tanking on pretty much every single boss. The reason why DK is so good late is because, again, because they scale because of their effective HP, but also their threat is absurd, absolutely absurd, and no other tank will ever come close to the single target threat that a DK tank can put out. And that kind of threat is genuinely necessary for certain fights. Like on General Vezax and Ulduar, Crix, I'm sure you are familiar with the threat issues on that fight. Hodier hard mode is a rough one too. Things like that, like DKs are phenomenal and sometimes even like mandatory for. They're really, really good at magic absorption with their AMS, and which is only on a 45-second cooldown, by the way. They are just really, really good tanks for single target.
And they have a few decent like cooldowns, right? Do they have a CD that gives them like 20% HP? Or is that not in the game till later?
No, yes, yeah. So Vamp Blood is like your last stand.
Yeah.
So they have their last stand. They have IBF, which is like their shield wall. You have AMS for magic damage abilities. You have Death Pact, which is a straight up 60% heal, I believe off the top of my head.
It's crazy.
They're actually insane. And they even get better later into the game because their tier set bonus in tier 10 makes it so that their rune tap, which is their like base 10% heal, also provides them a damage reduction on top of that. Like they just have so much going their way. It's crazy.
So someone asked, for healers, how horrible is it to heal a DK? Obviously, it sounds like it's amazing, but
yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about that. Healing a DK, I mean, they're not like they are in retail. If you're familiar with like maybe watching the most recent Race to World First and Shadowlands, these DKs are doing like 12k HPS on a boss fight, and other healers are doing like 20k. It's nowhere near that. Absolutely not. They just have like general self-heal capabilities for certain fights. I remember in one particular fight, I was doing a Nax 10, of course, meme, lol, Nax 10, but I was doing Nax 10 on a DK tank, and we got to Thaddeus, and it was a pug, and both of my healers died somehow, either by messing up the polarity charge or something, and I was genuinely able to survive the entire fight without any heals as a DK tank.
That's
Just
crazy.
I was soloing Thaddeus for as long as I could. It was actually insane. And
so
you can even solo Nax Trash. If you wanted to farm Nax 25-man Trash for Trash loot, you can do it as a DK tank. It's hard and slow, but you can do it.
So someone, oh, go ahead, sorry.
I think we're gonna see some like random Rex Troy videos coming out of nowhere where he's like soloing this boss, you know?
Yeah, dude, maybe.
Yeah, DK solos are back.
So you mentioned earlier that Pop Pally has mana issues. I played, Pop Pally is one of the ones I played a little bit of on servers, and I did have mana issues, but I wasn't drink walking and shit. So Felipe wants to know if you consider drink walking when he mentioned Paladin struggling with mana, or is it like a objective thing that's they're just sucking dry mana, or like is it like people on private servers down or doing everything they need to do?
You know, honestly, they could probably drink walk, but genuinely, Paladins don't have mana issues past level 71. After that, like which is like nothing. That's not part of the game.
Okay.
For the first level, you could just have like a billion snowballs and put one wisdom up and be spamming snowball. Yeah.
yeah, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Sounds good. All right, let's see. I didn't see any other question. I wonder if they'll release DKs at pre-launch like they did Bells and Goats. I think
they have to.
Yeah, do the same thing they did. Yeah.
I mean, did you see what I sent you earlier? The like, obviously I think some people have seen, and we'll probably go over this a little bit later. The survey that they sent out, like, they're even talking about doing boosts for DKs.
Right here.
Which, like, if they do that, if you can boost a DK to 68, yeah, everyone's gonna do. Let's be realistic. Blizzard. People do that. They're gonna buy the boost. You know, if Blizzard puts out the boost, they're gonna make a ton of money, and people are gonna buy the boost. It's just what the game is, and it's how we like to like complain about the game not being hard enough, but then searching for the path of least resistance.
But
yeah,
does that boost, that 68 boost, mean that we aren't getting DKs during pre-patch? Because if we're getting them during pre-patch, what's the point of the 68 boost? It seems like they're offering that because we won't get them in pre-patch, and that's our, like, you know, uplift for when Wrath comes out.
That would be that would actually be smart of Blizzard as a company to make money, but be super annoying as a player.
It's annoying because I feel like there's so many other things that they could have done surveys about, and the first thing it was money and fucking boost. Like, do a survey on the difficulty, bro. Do some other shit that we want. Like, I don't care about this. I have 7 accounts. I'm gonna get it regardless. But I don't. It's like, I want to know, like, ask us about the difficulty. If we thought shit was too hard, too easy, or what do we want 10 mans, or we want hard mans soon? Ask for some shit that people want. This is crazy. Sorry, I'm mad about this.
Thanks for coming to my TED Talk.
Yeah, that's not fucking dumb. All right, anything else
Makes
on the
sense,
tank daddies? Anything else?
Yeah, we got Bear and Warrior. All right, so Bear. Bear is super good. They are basically everything that a Death Knight is, except worse in pretty much every way. But one thing that Bear has going for them is if there is any scripting of parry haste when we get Classic Wrath, they're going to be basically better than Death Knights for those fights. Unless a Death Knight gets an expertise cap set. Because if there are parry haste bosses, you have to have a Bear form or an expertise cap set. So assuming we don't have any expertise fights or parry hasting bosses, then Bears are just going to be a B tier tank. They are literally almost identical in every way to a Death Knight, except they do more damage overall. But they have less CDs. Yeah, Drew. They have less CDs. They are just less tanky overall, and that's basically it. They provide very little to the raid. And in fact, one thing that I really don't like about Bears is their off-spec DPS is going to be way worse than an off-spec Death Knight DPS. And there are a lot of single target. Death Knight DPS doesn't need a lot of gear. It's one of the least gear-dependent classes ever. You can straight up just have pre-raid Biz Frost DK gear, and you will pump. You'll absolutely pump. They're like the Warlocks and Hunters of TBC. You know, they will pump. They don't need a lot of support behind them. A Feral off-specking is going to have a hard time getting his off-spec sets ready. He's not going to bring anything new to the raid, and it's just not good. It's super unoptimal. You want to have your Death Knight be the one who's your off tank who's going DPS spec and keep your prop paladin solo tanking for all these solo tank fights, which there are a lot of solo tank fights.
Okay, and just while we're here, because you are a feral main in TBC, or you were, but can you touch just for anybody in here some good differences on them just while you're here?
Feral between TBC to Wrath?
Any big things, tank wise?
I can't speak a whole lot on the tank situation. I can speak more on the DPS situation, but not so much on the tank.
Okay, we'll get there on the DPS list then. Yeah. For that. Cool. Do ferals no longer provide a group buff?
They still provide their leader of the pack buff. It's still the crit, but it's all raid wide.
Yeah, if anybody didn't know that, all the buffs and stuff are raid wide now instead of party wide. Lust, everything.
Do ferals, so if there is parry haste scripting, which is it in original Wrath, did they write out parry haste at that point? Or is it just like private servers don't have parry haste right now? So is that an issue that is like could happen more likely than not? Or would it just be like that would be weird if they didn't change it like they originally changed out parry haste?
That's a good question, and I think that kind of question can be posed with a lot of predictions that I like plan on making up until the Classic Wrath release. Is at this point, I'm so diluted between so many different private server scriptings that I don't know what was it like originally, what is it supposed to be, and what is the scripting that we have now. The difference, like to me, has like all kind of bled together, and I don't know what we are supposed to get anymore. Genuinely. And what we're supposed to get doesn't matter, because what we get is what we get. We have to be able to adjust to that, like how we have adjusted understandings of how to use Gnomish Battle Chicken, like that got basically removed. All these different things, how Fury Warriors are doing a lot more damage than they're supposed to be because of Heroic Strike queuing and glancing blows and a bunch of random bullshit. So we'll just have to adjust. I don't know, truthfully. I know that most Drakes or most dragon fights are supposed to be parry hasting, and a certain couple bosses, like I think Thorum is supposed to parry haste, but I think that's it. Pretty much every dragon fight and like a few random ones should parry haste, but we'll see what we get. Who knows?
That'll be interesting. That's gonna be fun to see. But I'm glad you're also thinking about that, because it also really shows like it's gonna be all encompassing with thoughts about these tier lists and knowing things can be different if we get these different versions of scripting. Yeah.
Right.
I have a question. Yeah, I'm gonna ask that about all the. We'll go over Prot Warrior right now, then I'll do the tanks having a hard time to get into stuff. Yeah. So go ahead and hit Prot Warrior.
Yeah. So Prot Warrior is like just straight up D tier when it comes to PvE for Wrath. They are dog shit. Like I never want to see them in any of my raids. I will like if I'm in a position where I'm leading pugs or GDKPs or a guild, like I'm genuinely never taking a Prot Warrior. Like they are terrible.
What makes them so bad? Okay, you're about to say it. I'll shut up.
So their threat is bad. Their survivability is by far the worst, and they bring absolutely nothing to the raid at all whatsoever. They are just bad in every sense of it. There's literally genuinely one fight in the entire game where I ever won a Prot Warrior, and it's a noob in TOGC in tier 9. If they can bring me a block set to tank ads on a noob, I'll bring them in, and I'll pay them a lot of gold to do it too. But that's it. They're so bad. And does that mean like you should never play one, or you don't or that you can't do the entire game as a Prot Warrior? That absolutely not. Like if you have a thing for Prot Warriors and you want to do that in Wrath, like go for it. Like you can do every single fight in the whole expansion as a Prot Warrior. But I'm telling you now, like the meta has been fully clear that Prot Warriors are a mile behind the other 3 tanks.
That's what I was going to say is we should have started with that, but you can clear content as all these tanks. Let's get this out of the way. All the healers, all the tanks, all the DPS, you are able to clear the content. This is just for the people who, you already know. For the people in here playing Prot Warrior who already hate us right now, who are going to all of our channels and downvoting everything, our job is to do this and tell people what the best ones are for the people who do want to play the best ones, okay? That being said, he already said Prot Warrior is fun, and you can clear stuff with it. So just had to get that out of the way. Go ahead.
That's just me. I actually got recognized in game just a week ago, and this guy was like, "Yo, are you Rugs? You're the guy who hates Prot Warriors, right?"
It's not just him though. This is an objective thing. He's not just making this up. Any content creator, even the ones that are memey to the ones that know what they're talking about, they are all agreeing on this.
Yeah, they all do.
I like how Jordy said a Prot Warrior killed Ruggs' parents. Pretty much Batman. But so if we were to like say compare like the tanking differences from now, like the meta tanking being obviously bear and prot paladin, but like right now you can easily go in with the prot warrior and do everything. Even some speedruns are putting up like in 1 hour time in Black Temple with a prot warrior. Would you say the gap between prot warriors and other tanks is larger than currently within TVC itself?
Yes, they're that bad, Sarth. They're very sadly that bad, and they are basically a prot warrior, or a prot warrior is basically a prot paladin that is worse in every single way possible. And it's not like how a bear is worse than a DK in every way possible. It's like a fucking huge gap, bro. I feel like if prot warrior had Ardent Defender and prot paladins didn't have Ardent Defender, all of a sudden this meta might actually be like way closer than it actually is. But with prot paladin having Ardent Defender and prot warriors being like the squishiest tank in the world without a cheat death mechanic, there's no point in taking them. Why risk your runs by taking this like dog shit, low DPS, really low threat, useless tank, but which by the way has, of all the tanks listed, the worst DPS off spec? Because like we said before, there's a lot of solo tank fights. If any of these tanks are going to go off spec, it's going to be your warrior, because you don't want him tanking, and his DPS is literally going to be the worst on the damage meter by far.
Okay, there you go. Someone said I'm not.
Fair enough.
She said I'm not saying prot warrior is better than others. There's not D tier. I think he's trying to say that they're so bad they're not even C tier at this point. Like you just wouldn't bring one. This is like can D tier just be don't bring type shit?
Sure.
Okay, let's do that.
Don't bring.
All right. I would like to ask, and let's see if something else to put on prot warrior. Do you think non-DK pallies? So do you think prot warriors and pharaohs are gonna have a difficult time getting in the shit? Like is it gonna be one of those where, like right now in TVC, it's already like, oh, prot warrior, I'd rather take a pharaoh, or I'd rather take a thing. Is it gonna be one of those where you're a prot warrior and you're pharaoh, you're gonna struggle, like you're gonna, you know?
No. Pharaohs have a spot in a raid for sure. I mean, they bring the 5% crit, which the only other class that brings that is Fury Warrior. So if you don't have a feral DPS and you don't have a Fury Warrior, which you won't have a Fury Warrior for the first couple phases of the game until Fury starts scaling, you'll want to bring a bear to cover that buff for you. And they aren't so bad that I would never take them. Absolutely not. Like bears have a place. But if I'm being honest, like if I'm going into, let's say like Ulduar, for example, because that's an actual challenging raid and it's early on in the expansion, Ulduar, I would genuinely be happy, like the most happy with 2 prot paladins as my tank, or maybe even 3, because sometimes you might need a third for whatever reason if you're in like a pug or like a lower guild or something. Prot paladin is like that good, but I would take a DK tank, of course, too. Yeah, I'll take a feral, but I will never ever in my right mind ever take a prot warrior.
Once again, he hates words. This is an objective. This is objectively. This is not just like a subjective opinion from him. This is, you go anywhere else, they will all be saying this about prot warrior. So he's not just making it up.
But let it be known that Ruggs definitely does not like warrior.
All right, 1 second. Let me get this over here real quick. I want to try to get a chat up on the thing for you guys. Okay, there we go. Any other tank questions before you move on here?
Yeah, I think whenever you're switching specs, it's only in like a rested area, right? So you can't like, so when you're off tanking or off specking, you're not like going back to dual spec, or?
That's actually a good point. I think they changed that in one of the late patches in Wrath. I think originally it was only in rested areas, but in every private server that I played on, you can just straight up change spec in the middle of a raid. You just can't be in combat. But I do think that was a thing, what you just said.
Yeah. Okay. So then all of the classes will have a viable off spec, at least. I mean, once you turn late game, and if you geared up your Giga Chad prot warrior. To all my prot warriors out there, I know you're watching Cosmo. Then all you got to do is just have a super awesome Fury set with Shadowmourne and Titan's Grip or whatever, and like slap and be like, no, I'll tank some of the bosses and then just come in deeps. Easy.
There you go. Hold on, I gotta turn channel points off real quick. Sorry.
This needs to stop now. This is
Everyone's using them now, yeah.
I gotta turn them off.
This is so
But that's,
much
I mean,
cancer.
it's awesome to see,
Tumor
and
growing on
especially
my
as
back.
someone again coming in here in the learning curve now, and I'm starting to play like the Wrath servers and stuff, and we're gonna all play together. But like to get really to see that there is a clear kind of line of how all of the tanks are, and it is very like specific, and it's almost kind of ascends like throughout as the other tanks eventually just get geared more and scale to catch up to paladins. So
Yeah.
like it's awesome to see how strong these paladin tanks are gonna be, and how everyone just like needs all of the gear and later comes into scale up to the paladin itself. And tanks now finally have like a lot of really fun CDs, which we're gonna see skill cap differences between a lot of like the best tanks in the world, probably, where your guild is always going to be like managing cooldowns in certain ways where you're using healer CDs in rotation with tank CDs on different pulls. It's going to be so fun.
Yeah, it's going to be huge. It's actually so crazy how many more externals and raid CDs that there are in Wrath compared to TBC. I've done so much raid leading in TBC to a point where like a lot of times like I don't have to say anything in TBC. There's nothing to be said because there's nothing to call. Everyone knows the fights. They're simple, and there's no like external or raid cooldown that I really need to shout at except for like Lust. And in
So-
Wrath, it just absolutely does a 180. There's so many cooldowns that you actually like want to actively call for. It's really, really fun.
It's way different. Just saying Rugs was my raid leader for a while, just hearing him in raid call for everything, I'm just like, I'm so glad I don't have to do anything. And I just spam my buttons because there's a lot of shit. It's a lot of call outs. That whole clear comms meme is even more now. I feel like it's like you got to have some, if you're doing like you're pushing, you got to have that good like focus. You know what I mean? There's a lot of shit going on.
One last thing before we leave the tanks, I just want to say, if we're talking like full scale, like DK basically moves into an S tier and tier 10, and Feral can basically move all the way up into like an A or an A plus tier. Like Feral gets really good too. Warrior is always going to be, you know, swamp ass. Okay, that's all.
Swamp ass. Okay. All right, next up, guys, will be the healing one. I actually didn't think about this, so you're not gonna hear anybody for a quick second. Sorry, guys. Let me fix this real quick. Okay, we're back. Sorry, I had to add that to the thing. Might not be worth having the chat up there. Never mind. I'm gonna keep it off. I was trying to put a chat there for people watching, but it doesn't matter. Next up will be healers. Big heal
Okay,
daddies.
so I want to approach this healer tier list with just the standard 5 healer comp meta. I don't want to start making crazy predictions right now on this podcast about how many healers we can drop down to with Classic, because truthfully, like, we don't know the status of if it's going to be pre-nerf or post-nerf, or maybe even like a crazy mastery, like custom buffed stuff. Like, I'm just going to approach this like this is 5 healer comp meta, and we'll worry about all that other crazy shenanigans later. We'll start with Disc since it's at the front of the list. Disc
Go
Priest to
whatever order
me,
you want, by the way.
Disc Priest to me is, I put it in A tier, but if someone wanted to put Disc in S tier, like, I'm not gonna stop you. Like, Disc is like S or A. It's apples to oranges to me. The thing is, like, I put it in A because I don't want to take more than one. But they are literally mandatory for your raid. They are so damn good. You don't take more than one because the way that Disc Priest does their absorbs is they're basically just hitting a ton of powered shields on the whole raid. They're powered shielding. If you bring more than one, then you're just having like random globals overlapping with people who have weakened soul, and it's just a lot of like wasted potential heals that could be going out instead. So one Disc Priest is basically mandatory for your raid, and they're really, really good for those fights that where they can prepare a bunch of incoming damage. I think like XT hard mode for the tantrums. I think like Kolagarn off the top of my head. I think oh my god, Algalon has so much incoming damage that they can pre-bubble for. It's absolutely crazy. All their cooldowns are really, really good. I mean, we have pain suppression now in TBC that is sadly like really underutilized because Circle of Healing is just, but he really takes like IDS priests a lot. Pain sup is crazy good in Wrath. And then Power Infusion, of course, is still really good in Wrath. Like all these things like still carry over really well and become a very desirable healer that you have to have in your raid comp.
Okay, you can touch on each kind of how they heal too. Like obviously you said this is in the future, like when we go over some stuff, you can do it just for the people wondering how they're healing. Because Disc changes. This is pretty much Bubble City anyway, but now it's you're literally spamming bubbles the entire time.
Right. What's good about Disc is they're extremely mobile. Every single cast that they're making, for the most part, is an instant cast. It's Power Word Shield and Prayer of Mending. That's it. I mean, they're gonna Penance when a certain target needs healing, and Penance is obviously like a really cool visual new spell that comes into the game. And then they'll like flash heal if they have to flash heal something. Typically, you're only flash healing on like a 10-man, but in 25-man, it's mostly just get your Prayer of Mending out and spam Power Word Shield, and it's really, really good to have that mobility because a lot of the really hard fights in Wrath require a lot of mobility. I think about like Lich King has a lot of mobility required in it. Yogg 1, Yogg 0, Algalon, Firefighter. All these fights require a lot of mobility, and Disc will be phenomenal at all of those duties.
The fuck am I supposed to do, man?
For like thinking about it from a speedrunner's perspective, is mobility is always huge, and being able to position yourself well will just make the entire raid go significantly more like faster, significantly more faster. So Disc, I think, sees a really good advantage there, and the ability to really see incoming damage and know where it's going to happen and be able to like kind of outplay that. One of my major questions I have as I'm looking at this tier list and hearing these things and kind of remembering things is, what is the thought process on potential like DPS during the healing? Like say they're mitigating all of the damage happening. Can priests also throw out like I'm not sure if Penance also will still do damage like it does in retail.
It can.
Okay, so do you ever see, at least yet, maybe not so much yet in the private server realm, but like the potential for these healers to actually add to the DPS of the raid as well as mitigating damage and healing? Because I think that's like something that in Wrath we might start seeing come up a lot more and really, really helping out in the speed of the raid overall.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Disc and Resto Shaman are like the two best ones to do that duty. Not to toot my own horn here, but I have a video up on my channel where I'm healing as a Resto Shaman on Heroic Professor Futureside. And I am doing just that, Sarth. Once the raid is good, I'm hitting Flame Shock, Lava Burst, Spam Lightning Bolt. Shit. Like, it's fun. Like, it feels like I did a lot, because at the end of the day, I look at the damage meters and it says like, you know, Rugs, Resto Shaman did like 180k damage, which is like nothing to scoff at all. It's like really low and minuscule, but like it's pretty decent too. And Disc can do that really well. They just apply Firing Plague, Shadow Word Pain. Those are two instant globals, like 2 dots that they, you know, put them up, forget about them, and that's like damage that like genuinely helps.
Yeah, and I think they're good. That's one thing I feel like healers need to do more, even in TBC, is DPS. If you have the mana to DPS, that healing proactive too, right? So, and Disc is a big proactive healer, more than it's always kind of been a proactive healer as you play Disc anyway. Even in TBC, you need to put shields up before the oncoming damage hits, right? It's even bigger. It's even bigger now, and it's more rewarding now as well. In terms of, I played a Disc, not in the raids, but level up, and it was blast. For those wondering, the dungeon cleave, which will be the meta still. Oh my gosh, it's so much fun. Glyph of the Holy Nova, and you're spamming Holy Nova carrying the whole way. It's actually kind of crazy. You'll see it when we play, but I love Discipline. That's all I can do. I really, really love it. It's like it, bro. It's got that blend of retail, so fun.
Yeah, it definitely feels like a more modern healer, like you said. It feels a little more retail-like than the others. And just while we're on the topic of damage, like a Holy Paladin damage is going to be like pretty much nothing, and you almost don't want them to. You want them to like constantly spam Holy Light. Holy Priest is going to be the same as Disc. They can do damage. Resto Shaman is a great one to do damage while healing, and Resto Druid is going to be a pretty crappy one because they'd have to switch out of tree form to do DPS. So just in terms of like the healers helping out and do a little bit of damage, Priest and Shaman is going to be the best by far.
That's awesome. It's awesome to know. Yeah.
From HP to Disc, what would you recommend? So Wolf, I also retail main disc, and it is almost, besides like Covenants and the tough stuff that sticks with retail, if you look at the base gameplay of disc, it's a lot of the same thing, except for there's no atonement healing yet. Atonement didn't come in the game yet, so you don't have that atonement healing. Other than that, it actually kind of feels a lot like, that's why I like it so much. It feels a lot like kind of retail, besides, you know, the legendaries and shit that you can't get. But yeah, no atonement. Other than that, you get your penance back, you get all that shit. You even get body and soul. You're not taking it because that's a holy talent, but you even actually get that in the Lich King, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, let's go ahead and talk about Holy, since we're already talking about Priest, saying that since that guy asked about it in chat. Holy, dude, I wish. Holy, in terms of fun, it is like S tier, like most fun healer in the whole game, in my opinion. I'm obviously biased. I've played Holy Priest in a Realm First guild once before, and I think they just have like the most decision-making process with every single global. It's so engaging for that reason. It's really by far the most fun healer, but they're truthfully like a 5th healer. And when you're a 5th healer, you're like first in, first out. They are like a blanket wide raid healer that isn't as good as a Resto Shaman, and they are a bursty healer for raid heals, like a Resto. I'm sorry, did I say Resto Druid? They're a blanket healer like a Resto Druid, just not as good. And they're a bursty healer like a Resto Shaman, but not as good. They're somewhere in the middle between a Resto Druid and a Resto Shaman in terms of their niche and their healing profile for your raid. But that kind of ends them up in a C tier, unfortunately for me. Like, I would, if I'm picking out like the 5 healers, the healer comp is going to be double Holy Paladin, 1 Disc Priest, 1 Resto Druid, and 1 Resto Shaman. But the Resto Shaman can be swapped out with a Holy Priest. I'm typically going to lean towards Resto Shaman over Holy Priest, but they're a 5th healer, and unfortunately a 5th healer to me has to go in the C tier. They're just a little bit unwanted.
Do they bring any sort of unique utility to the raid anymore? Or you're already going to have a disc, so you already have fort buff. So is there anything specific to Holy that you could see being like a really large advantage of having the Holy itself?
So the only things that Holy could potentially bring is 1 Guardian Spirit. That external is really cool and really useful. I love Guardian Spirit. The ability to be able to save someone from certain death is actually really cool, and has some weird niches for certain fights. But it's also like kind of a crappy external. Like being able to predict when someone's about to die like ends up being a really kind of whack and doesn't actually work out as often as you'd hope for it to do. Thankfully, Guardian Spirit has this other caveat with it where it increases healing done to that target. So if you need to dump a ton of heals on a certain target, I think like Dreamwalker in ICC, you put Guardian Spirit on Dreamwalker when all your healers have like 20 stacks, and then boom, that boss is healed to full. Game over, you win. So Holy Priest is good in those situations, but in terms of anything new, Disc Priest already has Inspiration. Disc Priest already has your Divine Hymn, your Mana Hymn, and yeah, I guess if you wanted to spec into Body and Soul, and it's technically not optimal to spec into Body and Soul, so it's not recommended, although genuinely you can spare 1 talent point for it. So if for some reason some weird like speedrunning meta includes, you know, Holy Priest getting Body and Soul for the movement speed, maybe we see some like crazy trash skip with it. Like, I don't know, potentially, but I'm very doubtful.
Put a bubble on somebody to get a movement speed.
Right.
For those that don't know.
The reason why it's not great is because if you have to power word shield someone to give them the Body and Soul movement speed, you're giving that person weakened soul, which you're just overriding someone who could be getting a power word shield from a Disc Priest, which is going to be a way more valuable absorb.
Casting Frostbolt or Flurry grants you an Icicle. Casting Ice Lands causes all icicles stored to begin launching at the target, each dealing 12 frost damage. Up to 5 icicles can be stored.
So it's a really like shitty way to use the talent.
And that mastery
no one
sounds
needs the
shit.
speed, truthfully, like you don't need it for any reason. So it's not a great talent, but it is a really fun talent. Really fun.
Something that like actually you would see a lot of use in if you were like running something like Mythic Plus, like a smaller group, like being able to do that and move really quickly. That's always super nice. But we also have so many other options for increasing movement speed currently in the game, and unless they break those, we're gonna continue using those in speedruns. I don't see a world where we stop using things like Nifty Stopwatch or even Skull of Impending Doom, like, or Rocket Boots. Like, I think we optimize that way with itemization currently in speedruns, that, and even like drums of speed. I don't even know if drums are in the game, so
Well, also now rocket boots are not rocket boots. You actually put rockets on whatever pair you're like PvE boots on, so you don't actually have to switch boots anymore.
So, oh my god.
You actually just get rocket boots on your boots of blasting, for instance, or whatever the fuck you're wearing. You know.
You just blew his mind.
Yeah.
Does it give you also static movement speed?
No.
Or would
No.
you need?
You get
so you
a
need
haste
two
enchant.
pairs.
So in terms of us, we get a haste enchant that's on use. We can use it every 2 minutes on our gloves, and then we also can put rocket boots on our shit, including and sappers and all the other extra stuff that comes with it.
See, that's something that I totally forgot about, and I'm so
literal
excited
BIS.
about.
It's literal. It's no longer like, oh, it's BIS for rocket boots. You actually get BIS, but you also can enchant your gloves with a fat on-use haste thing. That is just so nice. It's crazy. So.
And it's only 1 minute.
Oh, is it 1 minute? Okay,
So
thank you.
crazy.
Oh my god.
Even better. Yeah, even better. It's 1 minute. That's right, because you use it twice with blood free. I don't know why I didn't think of that.
All right, so
before you move on to there, you said Holy was the most fun. Why was that? Is it not? Are you not? So what's the gameplay of Holy? You know how it's kind of like circle of healing spam, you know, palms and renews. Is it the same thing?
Right, so it's really cool. So basically, the way that you spec Holy is you get Serendipity, which when you get 3 stacks of Serendipity, your next Prayer of Healing cast is reduced cooldown. So basically, what your healing like looks like is you're putting out your Prayer of Mending, #1 priority, and then you're kind of blanket renewing with your talent Empower Renew. So you're putting out blanket renews on everyone who's going to be taking damage, and then once you see some incoming damage happen, you either hit like your circle of healing if you need like that quick burst, like healing on the melee for some reason, or if you have 3 stacks of Serendipity, you get a quick cast of your Prayer of Healing. It's really, really, really fun, really satisfying when done right. There's like so much more management between like watching your Serendipity procs, keeping good Prayer of Mending out, and basically you always want to hit your circle of healing every time it's on cooldown in a more optimized like incoming raid damage fight. It's really fun for that reason. And plus, like, Guardian Spirits look really cool external. I think it's kind of cringy and not like the best external, but it is really cool. And when you do save someone from dying, like, it's really satisfying. Genuinely really satisfying.
Yeah. Before people have an aneurysm, once again, this does not mean you cannot bring a Holy Priest. You can bring 5 fucking Holy Priests and probably clear the content. This is a list for the best healers, tank, DPS, so on and so forth, right? So if you are, in this example, healing now this is an objective again. I'm speaking mainly to Solid Rocks because I know we know that they're good. Objectively, they are the worst healer. Ruggs is not the first one to say this. Every single content creator in the world that I've talked to, or anybody in the game, will agree with this statement. So that being said, you can still be a Holy Priest, and you'll be killing it, clapping, and doing great. But it's still the worst healer. So.
One thing I'll say about Holy Priest is I honestly think that they are in a lot of ways, like the best 5th healer. Like, I think that they're better than Resto Shaman and Ulduar. I think Resto Shaman is just in a like crappy place in Ulduar, and I think genuinely the world first competing guilds for when Ulduar comes out should have a Holy Priest as your 5th healer. I think that they are good and they have a place in the meta in that sense, but they require a lot of skill. Like, it's a whole lot harder healer to play than Resto Shaman, where you're literally just spamming chain healed like 24/7. Like, nothing basically changes for Resto Shaman except for you get Riptide. Resto Shaman's like super easy profit, great healer, no worries at all. Holy Priest like way more demanding, but actually probably better for Ulduar because they are so mobile. They don't have any mobility issues. And Resto Shaman is like super immobile. Let's just do Resto Shaman next.
Yeah, go ahead. I gotta pee really bad, so I'm gonna go to the bathroom while you talk about it after you to put where you want it to go.
Sure, throw them in B tier. Okay. To me, Resto Shaman, like I said earlier, they are the 5th healer, alongside the Holy Priest. And the whole Resto Shaman kit is actually really good because they help a lot with tank healing if they need to, but their main role is raid burst healing with just spam chain healing. They bring really good buffs because you don't actually want to stack as many shamans in Wrath. You typically want 1 or 2. Sometimes you can run 3, but you never run more than 3. That's for damn sure. And somebody has to bring those totems. Like the Spell Haste totem is a mandatory totem that you need for your raid. And of course, like Bloodlust is needed for your raid, which is now raid wide. So your Resto Shaman has a place in your raid, especially if you're dropping shamans because you think that their DPS is not meta. So they end up becoming like desirable for that sense. One good thing that Resto Shamans have is Mana Tide Totem. I know they have that right now in TBC, but it gets a lot better in Wrath and actually refunds a lot of mana in Wrath. So keeping them, and Mana Tide and Wrath is one of those still party-wide buffs, by the way. I get asked this question a million times.
Totems are still party-wide then?
Totems are raid-wide, except for a couple. Like Healing Stream Totem, the passive healing from Healing Stream Totem is party-wide. And Mana Tide Totem, the mana provided from it is party-wide. But I don't think there's anything else. Like your Spell Haste, your Nature Resist, your Flame Tongue, Stone Skin, Strength of Earth, all those things are still raid-wide in Wrath. Or they become raid-wide in Wrath, I should say.
Yeah.
Resto Shaman's also really good. Them, along with Priests, provide inspiration. And Resto Shamans have a good amount of crit. So they're usually going to have good inspiration uptime compared to a disc who maybe isn't paying attention to it as much. And plus, like, yeah, Resto Shamans are great. Good burst healers. They're just very immobile. Very immobile, and they scale really well, which means that they're actually worse in tier 7 and in tier 8 because Resto Shaman is all about stacking haste. You'll see them, like, all of their gems are literally just going to be yellow gem haste on all of their gear. And so obviously the later that the game goes, they're going to have more and more haste, and they're going to get closer and closer to that cap, which I think is 1375 haste, something crazy like that, like almost 1400 haste. I think that's the cap. And so they scale really great. They're really good in ICC, but early, like, I'd maybe argue for Holy Priest early.
Yeah.
So Fury is haste now. Also, there's no such thing as melee versus ranged haste, right? It's all haste. Is that right?
There's spell haste and melee haste.
Oh, it still separates. Okay.
Yeah.
You said it didn't separate anymore, like crit and stuff.
So if you only bring one shaman, do you only get one? Are they the same type of totem, or do you need?
So if you bring one shaman, it's fine because the only like unique one that they're bringing is the spell haste. No one else in the raid or in the expansion can bring that other than another shaman. Their Wind Fury totem is only 16% melee haste, and a Frost DK or even a DK tank who's spec'd into improved Icy Talons is going to bring a 20% haste buff. It's classified as the same thing, but it's better. So you don't need them for Wind Fury anymore.
Yeah, only 16% haste. That would be terrible. Oh my god.
Well, remember in Lich King you start the game with haste. Quest gear gives you haste, so haste is in the game adamantly everywhere. So
yeah, which is exciting. It's gonna be really fun.
You touched on how totems were party wide now too.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead. Which
And
one do you
wide.
want next, bro? Say the best for
do
last.
Holy Paladin.
Oh, nope, let's get it. They're D tier, bro. Don't even bring them.
Holy Paladin. They are S tier. They are
Paladin.
They are the poster boys of Wrath healers. They are incredible. They provide all the same utility that any other Paladin brings. And you need multiple Paladins for multiple Paladin buffs, but also you need multiple Paladins for multiple raid sack usage. Raid sacks end up becoming the most like called for raid cooldown during progression fights.
Explain that, please. What it is.
So if you want to pull it up, it's called Divine Sacrifice, and basically what it does is you activate this ability, and it gives your character actually 2 buffs, and you cancel off the one that is the return damage. And basically all that it does, it puts a blanket wide damage reduction on your whole raid, and it lasts for, gosh, I want to say 6 seconds. You'd have to check me on that, and it's enough to cover for a lot of incoming damage. It's crazy. It's called Divine Sacrifice. So it's super good, and even tanks like prop paladins will use it as their own personal tank cooldown if they need it, if there's no other reason to use it. But it's like basically mandatory for fights like Freya for when she does her stomp. It's good for Algalon every time a star dies. It's good for Firefighter because there's so much mobility where tanks or healers are losing good HPS uptime, and you need to provide just damage reduction to survive. There are so like countless uses for Divine Sacrifice. For all these custom buff servers, like you basically have to run like 3 or 4 paladins in every single raid. Like maybe we'll run less in classic, we'll see, but Holy Paladin is just absolutely insane. They are the healer that you want to stack. You will take like 2 Holy Paladins in every standard healer comp. I can see a case to be made like to drop 1 later for speedrunning, but again, I'm not going to go into that in this VOD. Like now's not the time and place for it. The typical meta is determined to be 2 Holy Paladins as your staple Holy Paladins. With Beacon of Light, like you're showing now, they just become your tank's safety net. Your tanks just don't die as long as they keep Beacon of Light up, because they're just spamming Holy Light. Say again?
Explain how it works for people.
Yeah, so Beacon works, the way that it works is a Holy Paladin will put Beacon of Light on, say, like the tank, for example. As long as that buff is on the tank, every single heal that they do that isn't on the tank, it's on like anyone else, will also heal the tank. And it's got a really crazy far range too, which is actually pretty useful for certain cheese mechanics. But they are just crazy because all they do, unfortunately, they're really immobile Holy Paladins, but they just sit there and spam Holy Light, and tanks don't die, and people who are taking like burst damage like randomly just get healed all the way to full because their Holy Lights are just absolutely on steroids. They're just kitted. They're just straight up like really, really strong value-wise, like in every sense of the term. Plus all their cooldowns. It's crazy.
Would you bring? Could you say bring 2 to a 10 man?
I wouldn't take 2 to a 10 man. You don't need to. No, I wouldn't do that. No.
You said that Divine Sacrifice, you can actually click off the part of the buff that makes you take damage.
Yeah. There's a macro where people just you just take off the return damage. Aura. What's cool though is so if you cancel aura the return damage, it does less blanket wide damage reduction. So a big 5-head move is you actually bubble, then you divine sack, and you don't cancel it, and so you get an even bigger raid wide blanket insertion. Or
wow. Is that a private server thing? Sounds like it's gonna be changed. No way I buy that.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't cause forbearance, so you can do it.
That's crazy. That's crazy, and that's also so amazing, and it's gonna. I mean, shout out to Paladins. That's my ult.
Yeah, I've heard of it. Is there something that would make it not? The clicking it off part is 100% private server shit. Well, you can have like a macro to do it. Right?
No.
Cancel aura. If it's not a debuff, that part. If it gives you like a different buff, or like it gives you the buff, and on yourself, it's just that you receive the damage from other people. But like if that doesn't affect the buff on everyone else, then yeah.
Go ahead and look at Hand of Sacrifice too, since we're talking about Paladin utility. Because Hand of Sacrifice is something that every single Paladin gets. And if you're prot, you will never need to bubble before it because you're just tanky enough to just like ignore it completely. But Hand of Sacrifice is basically like a Paladin's pain suppression, except it's baseline between all Paladins. So it's so stupidly strong that your rep Paladins are included in tank externals on top of your Holy Paladins, on top of your off-tank prots who aren't doing anything. You will call for a bubble sack, which just means you bubble and then you apply your Hand of Sacrifice on the tank that's taking the big mechanic, and it's like another pain sub, dude. It's crazy.
30% damage.
Damn, I didn't even know about the bubble thing.
That's 30% damage, 12 seconds. That's so long for a tank cooldown coming from not the tank.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And I put Hand of Salve up because it's the new Blessing of Salve. Blessings are gone, and it's now called hands. Like bop is a hop now, so stop saying bop. But yeah, that's how the new salve works.
Observe and
Hop me! I'm gonna die.
Places a hand on the party.
They still call it bop. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Our champion will stay back.
Places a hand on the party, reducing their total threat by 2% every 1 second for 10 seconds. That's now how salve is done. And yeah. Anything else on the big pallies, bro? Anybody else? Any questions on them? Hop on these nuts. You already know, baby.
These nuts.
Moving on to the next one.
I'm good with pallets. Yeah, that sounds good.
All right, and this is my favorite healing class in the game. It's the only one that I played like a lot of, and I fucking thoroughly love this one. Obviously S tier. Go ahead, Regs.
I think you could put Resto Druid in somewhere around like A or B. Like they're way better than our Resto Shaman in terms of tier list, but they're not like mandatory like a Disc Priest, so they have to be in between like there. So you could put them A tier, behind Disc or in front of Shaman and B.
So
Like,
not as good as Disc, but better than Resto.
yeah. Resto Druid is actually probably the easiest healer in the game to play. So they're really approachable, and their whole deal is just blanket healing. They're so good at it too. You're providing rejuvenation spam on everyone, and then you hit your wild regrowth basically on cooldown. It's simple as that. Every time you get a clear casting proc, you're hitting Life Bloom, and then that's basically it. They never have mana issues ever, so they can freely give away their innervates, which is really nice. Obviously, they still have battle res, but one of the best things about Resto Druid is this thing called Revitalize. So if you want to look up Revitalize, I think it's a talent. So basically, whenever their Rejuve or their Wild Growth heals someone, it has a chance to give that person like a certain amount of energy and runic power and rage. Yeah, it's crazy. And one of the best things, it's so clutch. So you know how like in TBC when your warriors have like a full rage bar and they want you to pull the boss instead of staring at it, you don't have to worry about that anymore. You can just have your Resto Druid just like spam heal on the melee, and they'll just get full runic power, full rage before pull, and then you can pull like at your own leisure. It's pretty nice. And it's a DPS increase during the fight, of course.
Horse gods are all out there. They're like,
One second. We know Disc is better, my friend. We're not. It's not. We already talked about Disc, so we're moving on to Resto Druid, brother. We already know Disc is better. That's not what this is about.
I as a rogue am so excited about Revitalize. I forgot about that and I love it, dude. Just constantly give me 8 energy. Just keep giving me some more energy. That's your job in this raid. Okay, cool. All right. And just get me buffed and I'm having a good time.
It feels great. And as a DK player, like it's almost mandatory for me to have that pre-pull on an unholy DK because Summon Gargoyle requires so much runic power. Like just a little bit of a hit of Revitalize helps me so much with my opener. So it's great. It's huge. One funny thing about Revitalize, I was gonna make a video about this, but since we're talking about it, is if you want to pull up the tier 3 Druid set bonus, I think it's called Dreamwalker or something.
Same.
Yeah, so it's the same thing, and I don't think this will be a thing because if it was going to be a thing, it would have already like been a thing in TBC already, and people would have been doing this. But I've been on servers where these stack, and Revitalize can also stack with like the tier 3 set bonus, so people would run like the ring and wrist from Nax. But the thing is, like, you couldn't get them in Wrath because Nax is no longer available. We were only able to get them on these servers because people would donate for these old like tier 3.
Okay, Mage is
and that's how they'd get.
Mage is pretty fucking fast so far.
It had this really funny, like, weird interaction on Heroic Professor Putricide, which is a really genuinely hard fight in all of Wrath, one of the hardest. And the mechanic of the fight is one of your like off tanks will occupy and drive this abomination, and it has its own like action bar and everything. And this abomination uses energy. And what these people would do is they'd equip 2-piece tier 3 on their Resto Druids and spam heal on the abomination to make sure that that abomination got revitalized on top of the tier 3 set bonus. So this A-bomb was doing like literally like by far #1 DPS in the fight, like more than everyone in the raid, which is like a huge help to making sure that you clear like this hard progression fight. I don't think that'll be a thing. It's just like some funny weird tech that I wanted to throw out there.
I think it will be a thing personally. That's the exact same thing that they overlook, you know? That's the exact thing that like Blizzard leaves in and we end up utilizing, right? We like someone ends up utilizing it. And thinking about that was genius. And like I was thinking about that the second I was looking at Revitalize again also. So like if you can just use 2 pieces that are like not too like intrusive, then that will be really strong.
Right.
Why is Arcane Explosion broken?
If you want to do this, you gotta plan
That's so much damage.
Nax is literally going away when Wrath comes out. You won't be able to get this tier set anymore. Like the old Nax from Vanilla will be gone and moved to Northrend, so you cannot get it anymore. So if you want to like make sure you've done like your homework and covered all your bases, like get the 2-piece tier 3 on your druids and just kick back and wait and see what happens. If people will end up doing it, then you can, you know, follow suit and do it too. But you know, don't be left out because you didn't go to your Nax GDKPs that you thought were a meme.
Yeah, might as well just grab it now. Why not?
You never know, man.
Yeah. I love like when things like that come into play and like preparing for things like anything like we knew in Classic, anyone in Classic knew or had an idea that like Badge of the Swarm Guard would be crazy strong still. And then because Armor Pen just scales like exponentially, and Badge, there's nothing better for like certain amounts of or like lengths of a fight, especially when you're cleaving or something. It's like, oh my god, it's unreal damage. And so people now, we're still going back and getting Badge or like getting Mind Quickening Gem. If that's going to be gone, if there's an item like that, but it's going to be like gone, you can't get it anymore, absolutely people should plan and at least have it in case.
Yeah, and it's dirt cheap. Like, no one's buying that tier anyway in a GK.
Yeah.
You just go in, buy it real quick, be done with it. Like, spend like 200-300 gold, forget about it.
Yeah. In terms of healings, I played all of them except for a Resto Shaman because the Resto Shaman sounds boring, and I had the most fun with the Resto Jude. It was so much fun. Wild Growth, having that instant, Wild Growth is an instant AoE heal. It puts a hot on him. It applies
Probably
a hot
looks
instantly.
cool.
Oh, well, it just looks like you're going like this, like putting a dot up or hot up, but it puts it on all 5, your whole party members. So that gives Resto Jude that little bit of like something they were severely missing, right? And on top of it, they get a res now too, not just the B-res, they actually get a res, which makes them a little bit more. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I don't know if you were here for this, but if there was this better than Resto Shaman, not as good as Disc Priest is where we're at. If we had a beep in between these two, that's where it would be. I just didn't feel like making a whole new one, right?
Yeah, and again, like I could throw Disc in S tier. I could. They are genuinely that good. They are arguably better than Holy Paladin. You just can't stack a Disc Priest. There's no point.
Why would you bring any other disc on solo heals? You are low-key troll bad at it too. Anything else on the healers?
Yeah. How do hit? Because this, I think, is always like for me the last thing to talk about, or like the most interesting thing as well, is how do all of these healers? So right now we're talking as a broad spectrum, right? Who scales the best? Who scales the worst throughout all of the phases?
By far, Resto Shaman scales better than any other healer. By far.
Why is that haste?
Because of haste. Availability to haste and hitting haste cap is a huge deal to Resto Shaman. And when they hit that, they become really, really good. Like, probably better than Resto Druid. They're really good for Lich King. Lich King requires a lot of burst healing, so they're just super good for that. So you'll see a lot of people like, shill for Resto Shaman whenever I put them on a tier list like this and put them kind of low. Like I feel like it's kind of low. They'll like make a case for Resto Shaman, and like there is a case to be made like late, but early like they're pretty crap. Like their mana management is pretty poopy, and like their haste values are so low that they're really just like not great. In terms of other scaling, Holy Paladins, I don't know. I'm just crazy about Holy Paladins, and they're kind of mandatory. I don't know. I guess I can't talk too much about any other scaling. Like, this tier list to me like doesn't really evolve a whole lot over the expansion. Like phase 1 all the way through 5 or whatever is gonna be pretty much the same.
Can't wait for Paladin Discords to be like, well, Ruggs said we're the best. So
why is Holy Priest not in don't bring tier? Because you can bring them. They're good. They're still good. But you were saying earlier that if you brought a full 5, that you'd rather bring two Holy Paladins than a Holy Priest. But it's because you can do this as a Holy Priest. Holy Priest is fine. It's just not as good as the other ones. You know? It's like versus like when we did the tanking one, there literally was don't bring prot warriors, right? That's the difference.
And let me cover my ass real quick. Like, you can put Holy Priest literally on the same level as Resto Shaman, because they scale too with haste. They have a lower haste cap. I want to say it's like 727. Way easier to achieve. You can literally do it in phase 1. But they scale, phenomenally. And their kit is really, really incredible, and it's geared for basically every ICC fight. Like, their healing profile works for every fight. So you could put them just right in line with Resto Shaman if you want to, but to me, like, Resto Shaman is just like so easy. It's money, dude. You play Resto Shaman, you're instant profit.
Okay.
Holy Priest, like,
what hero goes DPS first when dropping healers, do you think? You said Resto Shaman, you think?
Yeah, your Holy Priest for sure. Your Resto Shaman would be next. Here's the thing, if we're free healing, you could go a couple different ways. You could go double Holy Paladin Disc Priest to 3 heal. You could go Holy Paladin Disc Resto Druid to 3 heal. We even did one super giga custom buffed fight where we did Holy Paladin Disc Priest, Holy Priest. So I think the meta for 3 healing is going to be double paladin disc. So your resto druid would be the next to go DPS. 2 heal would be holy paladin disc, pretty much nothing else. And then your solo heals are usually just a holy paladin, but depends on the fight. Completely depends on the fight.
Nope. And then lastly for the healers, I want to ask about Valinair, bro.
Ooh, Valinair.
Who's
The
it
juice.
going to? Is it just holy
Finally,
paladin every time,
healers
bro?
can fight themselves.
You know, Valinair is really, really good for these custom buff servers that we've played on. And when we play on these, like, it's mandatory for us to be very optimal with who we're giving Valinair to in our raid groups. And the best option, if we're being fully optimal on customly buffed private servers, is to give it to your Holy Paladin. It is the agreed upon meta that your first Valinair goes to Holy Paladin. And the reason for it is, if you look at the proc, the equip, if you want to go ahead and, let me make it bigger so I can read it. Your healing spells have a chance to cause Blessing of Ancient Kings for 15 seconds, allowing your heals to shield the target, absorbing damage equal to 15% of the amount healed. So 15% of the amount healed. Yes, it's crazy good tank absorption. It's crazy. And because Holy Paladin is doing Beacon, multiple people at a time are getting hit with these humongous, like the value of their Holy Light is so large that the absorb becomes like the most amount that it could possibly be. Another great option is going to be your Resto Shaman, because they're going to do big heals with their chain heal, which is hitting multiple targets with the absorb. Resto Shaman is a wonderful choice for Valinair. And then in another weird sense is your Resto Druid becomes a really good choice for Valinair as well, because they can provide a good blanket coverage of the absorbs during that 15-second window where they're hitting so many wild growths and rejuves. They're getting good coverage of the absorbs that are going out. So there's a lot of good options. I'm biased to think like Holy Paladin is the best option for everyone, but that's not the case. Like, if you have an officer in your guild who's playing Resto Druid and he is like by far the best healer in your raid and in your guild, like give him Valinair. It's fine. Like you'll be fine without it. Like you don't need Valinair to do the rest of the expansion from T9 to T10, because Valinair comes in tier 8, so it's really cool. It's kind of like a Thunder Fury, you know, like your decision on who you're giving this legendary to like matters for the rest of the expansion. It's not just like a shiny Atiesh at the end of the expansion.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's not like Atiesh.
You know, like your decision on it does genuinely kind of matter. The most amount of value we've seen from our meta is Holy Paladin, but there's a case for every healer. Except for Disc. Disc does not get it at all.
I was gonna say everybody but healers, it looks like.
Disc never gets Valinair at all because they don't get any good value out of the proc. Because they're spamming Power Shield. Yeah, there's zero reason to get Valinair on your Disc Priest. I'm sure there's gonna be one like filthy rich dude who will buy it in a GDKP just for the memes, but like
Rip Jordy.
Yeah, Disc will never get Valinair. Do not waste it. It's super wasted on a Disc Priest.
Jordy's so mad right now, bro. Like, all right. Any other healing things before we move into what everybody's waiting for, which is the DPS tier list? I didn't want to anyways fuck you guys. So yeah, just in case anybody came late to this, this is what we got for the. We'll touch on it real quick. Where is it? Let me pull it up. Here it is. We did tank one. Okay. Well, this will be on YouTube. You can also check the VOD if you want to know the rankings. This is what we thought. And we have the healing one, which I just erased, but we got it. So next,
DPS. Let's go. This is the one that's gonna make the most like drama. People are gonna be juiced up.
So you can go in. Ignore that it's Kata. It doesn't matter. You can go in whatever order you want from the classes. I'll just do it. I can go at it, so you can do whatever. Just say which one you want, and then we'll fucking bang it out. You want to do like you did a good example of an S tier versus a don't bring.
Yeah.
Okay. You want to do the same thing? Boom.
Yeah, that sounds good. And we'll start with the don't brings. I feel like that's the easiest thing to do.
Oh my god.
Real quick question: is this intended for phase 1, or are we talking just like a general tier list?
Yeah, now it matters more.
What do you guys think? I guess an overall one, but touching on it. I guess because we're gonna do more episodes like this with you, and we'll touch on just like only a tier 7 episode or something. But I don't know what's the best way to do that. Maybe.
I've never done a general one. Let's just do general, right?
I'm down.
this is going to be the most like controversial way to do it when I'm not getting like down to the nitty gritty on like a prediction of tier list, but this is going to be general for the whole expansion. I'm doing my best to average it in my head.
Works for me.
And we'll go from there. So the first like don't bring is Subtlety Rogue. That's a PvP spec. You don't bring it.
Ah,
Easily
dang
said.
it.
Easily said. Do they do good damage at
Too
all?
bad
or-
Rogue is so sick
No,
though.
they don't do good damage.
Oh my god, I'm so excited. All right, yeah, go on.
They
go
don't
on.
do good damage, like literally at all. Another don't bring is Frost Mage. It's doesn't do good damage. Well, it probably does okay, but you know, it's a PvP spec. And then BM Hunter as well.
And that is just the other specs are
imagine all
far
the pets.
superior in DPS for one that was wondering. Before we get into these other specs for those classes, they're just far superior to these.
Right. You can go ahead and
That's
throw
combat.
like
You like that? It's combat. That's retarded. There you go.
you can either make like another column or something for the healers and the tanks, or just throw them in the dump ring or something so that we're not distracted by them. I don't know.
Yeah, we can just not put the healers up there. Yeah.
Okay.
We just won't put healers up there. We already
Okay,
talked
I'll
about
try to go
healers.
in order. We'll talk about Death Knights. So Blood Decay. I get asked this a lot because a lot of people want to play like meme specs, and Blood Decay is basically worthy of putting into the do not bring category, and I would not ever bring them in my right mind. But I've seen people play enough Blood Decay, or like if you want to meme around, it's gonna do okay. You know, of these meme specs that I'm throwing in this like gutter tier, like Blood's the best of them all. And
I'll
moving
try
on.
to put them here, yeah. And for you wondering, this is DPS, only DPS, okay? So if you heard Blood and go, no, they're good tanks, they're amazing tanks, all DPS.
Right. Okay, so Frost. Frost is phenomenal in Wrath of the Lich King. If we're talking about overall, I want to put them in S tier, but they're going to be a low S tier. They're going to get passed by a lot of other classes. But Frost is so good because Frost does not need a lot of gear to get going. Their ramp up time is like pre-raid this, and they're like ready to like fucking blast. They do so much, and they are not restricted by like anything. They can go full mobile fights and have really good uptime because they're not like leaving a Death and Decay on the ground behind them, or a Consecrate, or a Fire Nova Totem, or anything like that, or a Magma Totem. I mean, they have really good value just from like their pre-raid disc gear alone, and they pump. They absolutely just fucking pump. Really simple and approachable class to play too. Their unbreakable armors on a really low cooldown, so they're constantly like being able to pump. Like they have a good opener burst, but then it's like good sustain because their cooldowns are low cooldown. They're not like going on these like crazy big openers like some other classes might do, and they don't have like a crazy good execute. They are just like steady blasting. So Frosty K is really good, very satisfying to play with the Killing Machine procs and the Killing Machine and Rhyme procs too, especially when you're getting like a big AoE Howling Blast out. Very satisfying to see those big crits. Lots of fun, but for the most part, it feels like a 2-button class. It's like you're hitting Obliterate and Frost Strike over and over again. And that's why I said earlier that it gives me carpal tunnel playing Frost, because I'm like constantly hitting like my, I think I have them on like 2 and 3, and it's just like hurts my fingers, bro. But great class, great class.
As you mentioned, so then Frost doesn't need as much gear. So early on, very solid, very quickly. Then do they scale less? Like not less well? Yeah, less well. Like every class kind of passes them, and that's why they could potentially be lower S tier or like A tier later on in expansion.
It's funny because Frost has a really weird way that they are scaling, where they go from this like blood subspec build that doesn't care much about armor pin, to when they get to tier 10, they go into this unholy subspec that gets blood cake blade that's going to let them do more physical damage. Plus their 4-piece T10 is crazy. Plus all of the available armor pin in the whole game, they're able to hit armor pin caps. And Frosty K goes from like this like weird, like really valuable phase 1, phase 2, kind of drops down because they're like in a weird like lull, and then they like respec and get like another spike. But every other class in the game is spiking so much more than them late in the game, like in tier 10, that they don't really move in terms of like their tier and their like place in the meta. even though like they actually scale well because they get all those armor pin things, like I was saying, they don't really shift a whole lot in like where they're.
He war stomp him?
DPS meter.
That's crazy.
So it's good, solid all the way throughout. Yeah.
Absolutely solid all the way throughout. A lot of guilds like will run like 2 Frost DKs early, maybe even 3, and drop kind of down to like 1 Frost DK.
Good question. How's overall on these DPS? When you go over
Overall,
do you know overall?
overall it's going to be tough for me to answer for a lot of these classes. Plus, keep in mind I'm more of a melee guy, because we don't really track overall in private servers because no one cares. Overall in Frost is phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. Again, because if you're playing it right, you're getting big Howling Blast crits off with your killing machine, and they will just do great, steady overall. Like, they're just so steady. They're great, great overall.
Okay, well,
Yeah. Okay.
what's the other DK?
And then Unholy, a little bit different damage profile. I feel like if you watch like any of these DK or maybe tier list videos online, they'll probably say something like, "Oh, Frost is the single target spec, and Unholy is the AOE spec." It's not a thing. If you've played enough Unholy, you can throw Unholy in S tier.
By the way, just throw it up there.
I see you like hovering and waiting.
No worries. I'm having so much fun right now.
Unholy is great, and in a lot of ways their damage profile feels really similar to Frost, but it's just different. Like it's AoE dots, and it's their death and decay that does like a huge portion of their AoE damage. And you'll see these damage profiles play out really early. Like in phase 1, think about Sartharian 3. There are gonna be a lot of ads on these fights. So classes that can passively cleave them all, like an Unholy DK, will just cheese and like instantly be number 1 DPS for the encounter, despite being maybe a little bit lower single target.
I always mean when we were doing on the private servers, I would do like gambles, like predictions on my stream while I get top DPS. And whenever we get to those fights like that, I'm like, fuck, there's a DK in here. Never mind. I'm gonna lose to that guy. Yeah.
You just straight up lose because of the way Wandering Plague works, which is you're spreading these diseases and you're getting more single target damage by doing AoE. Because your Wandering Plague is exploding damage on all the ads around you, which is a DPS increase for your single target. So Unholy is just really fun. Plus the whole like gameplay of Unholy is getting a massive snapshot on your summon Gargoyle. You have your opener that includes applying your diseases, having your raid pop Bloodlust, and then you pop everything. I'm talking like your Blood Fury, your Haste Pot, your Engineering Gloves, have your trinkets rolling, all of this, and then you hit summon Gargoyle, and your Gargoyle just turns into an absolute machine gun, and is like the biggest portion of your damage. It's great. Like I think it's really fun. I find that like gameplay really rewarding. Some people think it's cheesy. I think it's really fun. So Unholy is just great. They are steady throughout the entire expansion, become even better late into tier 9, because one of the best things about Unholy is when you get 4-piece tier 9, you're gonna get prioritized for the heroic bonus for that, by the way. So they'll be like literally the number 1 priority for tier 9, because they'll use that all the way through tier 10. And so they hit like this really good spike in like the 3rd phase, 3.5 phase of the expansion, and kind of hit a ceiling there. Like you'll go into ICC, and thankfully like ICC fights are well catered to an Unholy DK, but they've already kind of hit their cap.
Thinking about trash packs and potentially speedruns and things like that, I think both of these classes do really solid like AoE damage, especially obviously Unholy. But if things die fast, then would a Frost damage, like thinking about it, be better on overall? And then if things die really slow, and Unholy would just be like crazy strong on overall damage.
Exactly, you nailed it. But that doesn't mean that you don't bring Unholy, because Unholy, when they have a disease up on a target, they have a talent that's I think it's Ebon Plaguebringer. It's your Curse of Elements. So they're applying like an AoE Curse of Elements better than any class in the entire game. So having one in your raid is basically mandatory, especially for speedrun. But yeah, if trash is dying really fast, I'd rather have the burst of a Death Knight or a Frost Death Knight than Unholy. And if it's slow, yeah, maybe we stack a couple more Unholy.
Warlocks, you don't have the Curse of Elements that much anymore, boys.
Yeah, Death Knight is going to be such a fun class and versatile in so many ways.
Yeah.
Because I know it's your other favorite class, you can hit Feral next.
All right, we'll do Feral. So in my previous videos, I've actually ended up putting Feral S tier, I think through the entire expansion too. And let me start with the caveat that in my limited, well, not limited, my experience with Ferals in Wrath is these private servers that we play on are really favorable to Feral scripting. Because we're getting these kind of abusive Omen of Clarity proc rates that are basically procking off of everything, like a Flame Cap melee damage could proc Omen of Clarity. Dragon Breath Chili, things like Storm Chops have been abused in the past. Like, all of these things add up to a really, really insane Feral Druid in these private servers that we played on that I'm not sure if we'll have that in Classic Wrath.
All right, so let's look up Mage. Let's look up Frost. Talents. Everyone plays Lonely Winter in PvP. Shimmer Icy Flows. Makes your next mage spell with a cast time shorter than 10 seconds castable while moving. Bubble cooldown and casting while casting. %. Cast time shorter than 10 seconds. Castable while moving. Icy Flows, huh? Oh, they still choose Lonely Winter. Bone Chilling. Encanter's Flow. Magical energy flows through you while in combat, building up. Frozen Touch. Frostwall grants you Rings of Frost. Frozen Orb makes Blizzard instant cast and increases its damage done by 60% for 12 seconds. Oh my god, this sounds insane! Icy Veins duration is increased by 10 seconds. Your ice line says against frozen targets extend your Icy Veins by an additional. Jeez.
What? Just get me free, stranger. I could kill 100 of these pigs with this shovel alone. Make them suffer. At last! I swear by the spirit of my father, I will make them pay! You must listen to the lad.
Observe and reflect.
Have you seen my wrench anywhere? You do the fighting, and I'll do the fixing. Now, let's get up on that tank. Look back there. Think we can climb up those chains? Look back there. Think we can climb up those chains? I see the controls. How can I help? Orcs off the starboard bow!
Looks like we arrived just in time.
Hop into that turret! Keep them away! Kanga! Buy me some time!
We will do what we can, Thalen. Hero, keep these orcs off of us.
Oh, nice shot!
Tank coming over the rise! Look out!
Oh, these controls don't make sense. Remind me never to drive a tank built by an orc.
Hold strong, everyone. Here they come.
They're bringing up explosives. Destroy those cunts before they get close.
many of them. Don't you give up yet, Paladin.
That's it! I've got her running! Let's finish this! Fire away! That danged army should be here any minute! Let's move!
Run to the docks! Run! Run!
Come at me, Hellscream! Don't be a fool, Gunnar. Run! We will fight another day.
Look out! Keep moving. I see the ships ahead.
Where now?
Head for the ships at the end of the road! This way! Go! Go! Go!
There is no place to run, outsiders. This is my world. We will find you. We Frostwolves will be waiting for you, Hellscream. You, your ogres, your whole Iron Horde. You're as good as dead.
We will find your way.
This land, my eyes may not look, but the familiar chill of the air is comforting. You mentioned the Frostwolf chieftain. Caius, the Rat's last, a noble soul.
Oh fuck! I should do Legion. Legion reputation.
Old friend, you are alive. I can barely stand. These are champions for the action.
Wait a minute.
I know your eyes don't work, shaman. But this one.
I think Legion is actually the play.
I have many wares. May your feet find good trail.
meeting again for the first time. If you find a powerful weapon, just make sure it isn't corrupted by the Burning Legion or old gods, okay?
Open the Legion intro and artifacts leveling guide for your class. God, this is so fucking laggy, bro. Increase critical strike and primary stats. What? Let's fucking go, bitch. Eat your last meal. Polish your armor. Going to battle. Power your weapon. Oh, we're big boy pumpers now. Warm up in a duel.
So.
Time is money, friend. Be good. Smell that sea air. It feels good to be out in the open water again.
I'm sure that payment from Orgrimmar had nothing to do with it.
There's an old goblin saying that goes, the best bets use other people's money.
That assumes we're going to make it back.
Any messages from Orgrimmar?
Sylvanas and the main fleet arrived a few hours ago. Demons covering the whole island.
Already? How'd they get so many here so fast?
Man. I got a feeling we're going to find out.
All right, Horde troops, this is your stop. The beach's lined with demons. Bring her in, snappy now. What's that ahead?
Oh, looks like trouble. Big trouble.
It looks like our reinforcements have arrived. Good team. We don't got much beach left to retreat to. There's something odd about the crystals surrounding the spire. These two places are pain. Hold! Pay for them crystals! We're gonna see if your hunch is right. Yes, they must anchor it to this world. 2 more to go! Crush them! Keep them away from the spires! Keep it up! We almost got him! Your corpses will feed my hounds! Weaklings! Must I do everything myself? Very well. Prepare yourselves! I need a target. You're gonna die just like all the others. Focus on the commander! Your souls will know endless agony. Looks like you chose the wrong side. The master. You will all burn! Spellfire rains from the sky! Look out! Return. It is good to fight with you again. He's never gonna get used to you calling me that. There's only one way to the tomb. Are you ready? Let's get moving. Sylvana's sheep must have crashed just ahead. They're expanding faster than we've seen before. Yeah, man. This is the same Legion.
Let's go, you slow fucks.
What? That's no invasion force. That's an army.
Knock your arrows! Hold! Fire!
They're alive. Let's move.
Huh.
It's about time you showed up.
You look like you could use a hand. Your reinforcements are endless. Those crystals again. If we can get close to them, we can bring this thing down.
You heard him, Rangers. We cut those demons down. Fire a volley on my mark. Now!
Break the crystals!
they managed to get so many demons here so quickly.
This invasion is unlike any I have ever witnessed. I don't think we've seen the last of their surprises. These structures rose from the ground in moments, spewing forth demons in the hundreds in the blink of an eye.
And now we know how to destroy them. It's them or us. Let's get moving so we make sure it's not us. This is Argent Crusade insignia. Can you speak? Where's the rest of the Crusade?
I am in your debt. They descended on us in seconds. Nowhere to run. It's good to see a friendly face. I am
No sign
wounded,
of Tyrion.
but I can move.
We will find him. Horde forces, keep your eyes open for survivors. Rescue as many as you are able.
There were so many of them.
We must find Tyrion. I am singed, but I can still fight. We must find Tyrion. I am in your debt. We must find Tyrion. I need a target.
We couldn't stop them.
I am wounded, but I can move. I need to get closer.
There be retreated!
This was too easy. Something's wrong.
There, across the chasm, Gul'dan! He has Tyrion. All the Horde! Get to throne!
Anyone have any ideas how we're going to get across this thing?
Spirits of Earth, aid me!
Convenient.
Tyrion!
Gul'dan, you will pay for this.
Stay back! It's a trap! The light will protect me.
You fool! You stand before the temple of a god. Your pitiful light cannot reach you here. How fortunate that your friends have arrived just in time to watch you die. Destroy him.
The light will... Ah! Ah!
Thorgrim!
No!
All you have worked for, all you have sacrificed, just to see your champions fall to ash, one by one. Destroy them. You will know fear.
Monsters from the Bellfire! Horde forces, be ready!
He's heading your way, Windrunner.
Let's go, Horde! It's time to show the Alliance how we slay demons! All yours, Alliance.
We've got him this time. All forces, concentrate your fire. The bigger they are, I need a target.
No time to gloat, Rin. We've got to stop Gul'dan before he summons another one of those things. We'll take the ridge and cover your flank.
Sylvanas, thank you.
Good luck, Varian.
And you.
King Varian dies.
Run. You are right, human. There is nowhere to run from my master. Now, witness the true might of Lord Sargeras.
Down the ridge behind us! Another portal! We've got to hold this ridge, no matter the cost!
Take up positions! We hold them off! We have to!
We will never fall to you, Gul'dan. The combined forces of Azeroth will triumph today!
Less chatting, Rin! Kill him already!
I have seen the end of your pitiful world, Ren. You will perish in Hellfire, like 10,000 worlds before your own. The Legion is endless.
I cannot take much more of this.
Pull Bane back to my position! Close ranks!
There are too many of them.
Everyone, pull back to me! We make our stand here!
Oh, my game broke.
Blood and thunder. Strength.
Kona Cold is 18. I need to go to bed. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. Oh, shit. Of which I can't. All right, John, I'm going to bed. We will mage it up tomorrow. What is this? Oh, maintenance tomorrow. Oh boy.